Okay, so today we're back again, and we're just gonna kind of leave where or start where we left off last time. Sean's again on the phone, so hopefully the audio is good. He's not
Yeah,
driving this time, so.
no, I'm not. I'm rocking some like headphones and stuff, so like I'm hoping the sound quality is better this time around. Hopefully, we'll see. I honestly don't know what it was like last time. Hopefully, it wasn't
Yeah, I know.
atrocious, but
I didn't even listen, so hopefully. Oh, okay. Yeah. So
um,
okay, you want to take it away?
yeah, I guess that works. So I know last time, our last podcast, we were talking about recognizing in your life when you need to potentially set boundaries with individuals, loved ones, colleagues, whatever it may be. And I was talking about my personal experience about how, at work I really wasn't getting along very well with my father, and we worked hand in hand together. And I was getting ready to kind of have a conversation with him about switching roles up a little bit so that we weren't so it wasn't such a teamwork environment with us. Like there's a little bit more separation there, and we were able to kind of see a little bit less of each other, so that we could kind of get over some of the rough stuff. You know what I mean? Like just that little bit of space. Sometimes you just need a little bit of space to be able to process everything. Um, so I was getting ready to do that, and after our last podcast, I did a lot of thinking. I did some journaling, which I've been honestly slacking on a little bit, and it felt really good to do, just kind of get everything out. And what I kind of came to the conclusion of was that, my dad's behavior wasn't really, it hadn't really changed. He's pretty consistent as a human being. It was really my behavior that had changed, and I was the one that was actually kind of being a little toxic in that relationship. And I was the one going to work in a negative state of mind. I know we've touched base before on me really kind of toying with the idea of different career paths and knowing that this isn't really what I wanted to do anymore, and so on and so forth. So after I came to the conclusion that I was arguably affecting the relationship I have with my dad to a certain degree. I mean, we were really starting to butt heads. I was coming home in a really negative state of mind for a couple weeks. So much so that my partner had actually mentioned a couple times that she was like, if you're not willing to do anything about your situation, like you need to stop complaining about it. Um, which is a little bit rough because sometimes you just want to feel heard, but at the same time, if you're not willing to take action to rectify situations or to actively try to better your situation, then really all you are doing is complaining, and you're just looking for somebody to give you attention. So what I decided to do was quit my job, and that is actually what I did yesterday. I believe it was, yeah, yesterday. So yesterday I had a conversation with my boss and just told him that, hey, look, um, my girlfriend's running her own company right now. She needs a little bit of help over the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to phase into that and help her do that. And then as soon as her landscaping season is done, then I'm going to go back to school. And he was
Shocked?
upset.
Oh.
Yeah, he was. It was interesting too, because like him and I had just recently had a conversation about me needing more money. And it was I do a lot of traveling, so I just told him that like he does pay, because the my work situation and that we're unionized. He does pay some level of travel for me, so like I do get like gas money, so to speak, to go to work, which is really nice. It just wasn't meeting the needs I had, because gas prices are ridiculous, and I do 300 to 400 kilometers of driving a day. Um, so it just adds up quite significantly. So him and I had just had a conversation, and he agreed to every term I laid out. He agreed to, no problem. Yep, I got it. I don't want you to go anywhere. And then like a week later, I'm like, oh, listen, man. So I really appreciate you you give me everything I wanted, but like apparently like it's still not enough, and like mentally I'm checked out, and I don't want to be here anymore, and I'm at the point right now where it's starting to affect everything else in life. So it's time to move on. And I know we've had the conversation before about like we both kind of get to that point with massive decisions in our lives where um, I'm reluctant to change. Like change scares me to a certain extent, and then as soon as I accept it and I move forward with it, I always look back and go like, "Oh my God, why did it take me so long? This is fantastic."
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with my last relationship, and this is I'm very confident going to be another one of those decisions where, I'm absolutely terrified to make the choice, and once I have, like I feel significantly lighter. Um, my girlfriend mentioned last night I got home. She's like, "You haven't been in this positive of a state of mind in quite a while, and it's really nice to see." So yeah, I'm excited to see what the next couple of weeks and months bring. Should be interesting.
Well, yeah, I think like anything else, people get stuck in their that comfort zone, and and change is always difficult. But I always think we have to sort of be kind of like pushed to that change. Like we know we kind of like mull it over in our minds, um, probably for a length of time, as we both know that we both do. But then it's sort of like, okay, well, you know what? Now between a rock and a hard place. I have to make a decision, because indecision is also a decision that people don't understand too.
I agree completely, and it's very interesting the way that the vast majority of the major life choices that I have made in my adult life anyway, it seems to be that way where it's a very drawn out experience, and then there'll be like that final straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And next thing you know, I'm like, I just can't possibly stay in this position anymore. Something needs to give, something needs to change. And then I embrace the change, and then my life gets exponentially better. So it's a really interesting process that I'm obviously still actively trying to work on, where I'm so reluctant, and this is a lot. This really has my anxiety really does play into this quite a bit, where um, I'm quite good at what I currently do. I'm very comfortable in that regard. I can walk into pretty much any situation at work and know exactly what needs to be done, be able to take charge of a situation. I'm quite good at that. So the idea for me having absolutely mastered something to then start from scratch again, that's where my anxiety comes into play. There's a lot of insecurity there. Are you intelligent enough? Are you actually going to be able to handle a different setting? These kind of things. And like it just slowly chips away at my own confidence. And then I become reluctant to make a decision because I feel like I'm probably going to fail, or it's possible that I'm going to fail. And all of these little tiny insecurities and negativities, they compound into this reluctance to move, and then before you know it, you kind of feel like you're drowning. You can't stay where you are, but you're too scared to move forward, and it gets into a really rough state. So this is where therapy and learning some skills really come into play, where it's much easier to navigate this situation. um, my work one, it's been a very strange year. I know we had a conversation at the start of the year, you and I, about setting up kind of a plan, like an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of little plans put together that I was really happy with. I was super confident with them, and I'm like, this is gonna be great. And then like every single, not a single one of them really worked out the way I wanted it to. And then it just becomes another excuse not to move forward. So yeah, it's a very interesting experience, and it's quite the learning curve. And I'm hoping that now that I'm starting to make, I've made a couple pretty big life changes and choices over the last couple of years, that they're going to start falling down a little bit easier, and I'm going to be able to start actively moving forward at an easier rate. I'm not going to hit these walls as frequently. I'm sure there will still be struggles, but I'm hoping that, like, understanding that, my next job doesn't need to be the perfect job. It just needs to be something that I enjoy more than I'm doing now. And, like, there's endless room for growth. And adapting that slightly more positive mindset really helps move you forward. I think I was kind of getting to a place, like I said, with my insecurities and my anxiety, where you're kind of dragging or drowning in this sea of negativity a little bit, even about just one aspect of your life. And once you're in a negative state of mind, everything in your life is going to come up negative. That's all you're going to really bring forward. You know what I mean? So hopefully we have some positive change coming up, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, because it's so true. Like, people think, okay, because look at your life. If you really looked at it at a whole, like last week, we'll say, your relationship is good, your home life is good, but then your job, which is the majority of your life, is is hard for you or challenging. So of course it's going to seep into all those other, if it's a circle, it's going to keep seeping into part of that circle, right? Like, it's going to bleed into the
Oh,
rest
I
of
agree.
your whole, which is
I
exactly what you spoke about with the negative thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a negativity is contagious. So if you have one aspect, especially like a large aspect of your life, um, that's an extremely negative event for you or experience. I'm not saying everybody needs to absolutely love going to work.
Well,
Um,
I think they should.
I think they should. I think it's a difficult thing to ask, but I think you should have a job that, at least, it's inspiring, or you're taking a certain amount of positivity out of it every day, where you feel fulfilled at the end of the day. Um, I get home from work, and I literally, I feel emotionally and mentally drained. I feel physically shattered. It's a very difficult job, physically and mentally, but it's also the fact that, like, if you really enjoyed it, sure, you can make a career out of it. There's tons of people that do. But when you're not there mentally, and then you're able, like, you just focus on all the negativities, right? You focus on how sore you are. You focus on, I was up at 4:30 this morning, did a 2-hour commute. Like, you start focusing on some really nasty stuff, and then you kind of spiral. And that's where I was. I was kind of in the midst of a work spiral, negative spiral.
Well,
So,
we do that thing too about the cost benefit analysis.
oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great tool.
Yeah, and it's good for everything. So when the cost was outweighing the benefit, and
Yeah,
so
massively.
it's not viable.
Well, yeah, and for me, like, I'm in it's a very healthy, really, at least, yeah, it's a very healthy relationship. I'm very happy, and the idea that I couldn't get to I was at the point where I couldn't drop the negativity from work when I walked in the door at home. So, like,
So add that to
everybody
your
has,
commute.
exactly. So the fact that everybody has bad days at work, and you're gonna come home and you're gonna be upset. I mean, you're human. Everybody has bad days. Period. Embrace it. Accept it. That's life. But when it starts becoming a routine of me getting home and being like, "Oh, yeah, I can't believe this happened today," or blah blah blah, and going into, like, a little bit of a rant, or just being upset or negative, and bringing down the vibe of my partner and the entire household, like, that's not okay. And, like, she's was very respectful, and kind of helped get me through it to a certain extent. And then she's like, "I'm gonna slap you in the face, tell you to wake up, and be like, if you're not willing to do anything about it, then stop complaining about it." Which is really nice, because I need somebody like that personally. It really helps snap me awake and realize that, like, oh no, like, I am bringing you down. This is affecting you just as much as it's affecting me. Sorry. And the sad truth is the vast majority of people are much more likely to take care of their loved ones better than they take
Yeah, we
care
were
of
talking about
themselves.
that last week. It's
Yeah.
like
So it was.
it's
It's really,
crazy.
yeah, like that kind of podcast really kind of came full circle for me a little bit, because it was, I did some journaling, and like stuff just started like finding its place mentally, and I was just like, okay, this is affecting, two cherished relationships. I'm miserable, physically stressed out. You know what I mean? I'm just like, why? Why am I doing this? My girlfriend literally told me, she's like, quit your job. She's like, go sell pizzas. She's like, go be a pizza delivery guy. She's like, who cares? She's like,
Yeah,
do
who
whatever you want.
cares?
She
Who
literally,
cares?
she was like, do whatever. She's like, if you want like a part-time job, she's like, do it. I'm lucky enough that financially I have a little bit of a nest egg, so I do have a nice little buffer that I can play with for the next, arguably, probably 6 months or so. So when we made the decision that I was going to quit, I sat down and I ran some finances, and I kind of played with the idea of how much I'm willing to eat into that nest egg to kind of toy with some career options and kind of figure some stuff out. And yeah, once I accepted that, it was like, let's go. I'm ready.
I think though, because like going globally, they're calling it the Great Resignation. Yeah, the Great Resignation, because a lot of people have come to that realization, right?
Oh,
Of
I agree completely. Like,
this,
yeah, and that hits home. That one
yeah,
definitely hits home for me. Yeah, because it was like, it got to the point where like it didn't, like, my work didn't resonate to the point where like it was making me sick. Like, that's how out of whack I was. Like, it was physically making me ill.
and I
The
want to
level
do
of
a
stress.
disclaimer because you always have to, because you're going to get, you know, the people who are listening to, I am not endorsing everyone to quit and be happy, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, I listen to what clients are telling me, and then when certain patterns keep coming up, it's just asking some hard questions. And it's not, if I'm not endorsing, oh well, just go quit your job and follow your passion. If financially, or you have responsibilities that you cannot do that, I'm just saying maybe you should just take stock in what's important, and your mental health should be way up there.
I
So
agree. I mean, the conversation I had with my father went very differently, obviously, due to these circumstances, than the conversation I was expecting to have after our last podcast. So, I was expecting to have this very, boundary setting conversation where I'm like, hey, listen, man, I'm starting to not like being around you. But in reality, I was like, okay, listen, like, I'm miserable. I need to do something else. Um, and like, it's time for me to move on. I'm like, if I end up back here in a couple of years, it is what it is. That's not necessarily the goal, but like, if it happens, it happens. But like, I'm at the point right now where financially, I'm 28 years old. Um, my living situation is, I can handle my living expenses with very minimal income coming in for the next couple months without any real stress. Um, so it was like, okay, I got to do it now. I got to do it now, because the biggest issue is what I look at, and I get a lot of financial stress, and I get a lot of financial anxiety, and like, I like to have my little nest egg tucked away for a rainy day, and like, I'm very old school conservative when it comes with money. And the way I look at it is, I'm 28, my girlfriend and I are very, very happy. We have discussed children, if we potentially might want to have them at some point in time. And that kind of changes the game a little bit. I start to, not necessarily lose my ability to move fluidly from career to career or job to job, but I don't lose it. It just kind of makes it a little bit more challenging, and like, it's already hard enough for me to do. So if you have kids at home and you're trying to support a family and everything like that, you don't necessarily go out and quit your job right off the hop. Like, I don't have anything to fall back on right now. That's how crazy I literally was just like,
but
and
I
I'm not
think
that person. I
sometimes,
needed it. I needed the cold plunge.
right, but I think that's a lot of people. I don't think there's uh I know they say that, this is what you do, but I think most of, you don't hear, and if I'm, any success story that you hear, unless you've inherited your wealth, right, or it's generational wealth, you hear like the most horrific stories of, like, even like Jim Carrey. He was living in his car. Like, you hear, like, before somebody makes it, it's like, I have to go full in and believe in myself more than anyone else believes in me, and take that plunge, whatever it takes. And I know that because, like, you could name any story. It's never somebody who's like, okay, so yeah, they had this great job, or they had the job, and then they were doing this thing on the side, and this thing on the side just blew up, and they were just able to transition. Like, Steve Jobs literally was in his parents' garage. You know, like,
I know.
it's
Yeah.
always like these weird off stories that where somebody, you know,
Well,
catapults into greatness.
I think, at least from my experience anyway, and this is part of the reason why I had to do like the cold plunge and like quit without really having a job lined up. Um, a lot of it has to do with the fact that, I've been on like Indeed.ca looking up jobs for like months, or like at least a month, a solid month anyway. Um, Fairly regularly, within 50 kilometers of where I live, I could probably recite to you every job posting, and there's like 2,000.
Uh-huh.
So fairly regularly, and you know what? I skimmed, and I'm like, no, 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 can't do it. Probably not. Oh, don't have the no, 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 no. And then I start to realize, like, it's very difficult to put yourself out there when you're sitting on like, you're in the comfort zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the comfort zone. It's very uncomfortable for me to be in there because I don't want to be there, but it's very safe. It's a very safe space. So when you're in a space like that, where you can put food on the table, your basic necessities for life are being met, it's very, very, very hard to step out of that environment into something that is, a little bit unexpected or unreliable, or you don't know where it's going to go. That's a very hard thing to do. It goes against a lot of like survival instinct, in my opinion. So that's why I needed it, because like, as long as I have the fallback of like, oh well, like, I get to go up and go to work today, and like, my bills are paid, then I'm probably not going to look for anything different. I'm probably not going to actually find something that I deem worthy enough of my time to go pursue. But if I need a paycheck coming in, I'm like, sure, I'll do that job. Sure, I'll try that. Oh, here's some life experience. It's that's the way it works for me. My mindset's very different.
But then, okay, there's also that big one. If not now, then when?
Exactly. Well, that's it. Like, for me, it just, from this point forward, and it's never too late to do a Hail Mary and switch your life up. It's never too late. But for me, I'm about to enter into a phase of my life where it will just become exponentially more difficult. Not impossible, just more difficult. So I look at it as like, if there's a time to do it now. I've been thinking about it for so long and haven't acted on it. It's like, it's like, now's the time. And it's very strange because it's a choice that gave me, or a decision that gave me unbelievable amounts of anxiety leading up to it. But once I decided I was done, accepted it, and was like, no, I'm holding myself accountable to the decision I have made. May it be right or wrong, it is my choice, and I will stand by it. My anxiety disappeared.
There you
It was
go.
gone. It was literally gone. And the amount of confidence I had was quite impressive, considering, it wasn't just literally a pool of anxiety. So, it just goes to show you that, like, we are, in my case anyway, I am 100% my own worst enemy. I get in my own way.
Well, everybody
So,
does. Everybody, because really, what is the catalyst to all of this? Our thoughts. And as we've spoken about this many times, our thoughts are not real, right? It's our perception of our thoughts. Just like anxiety. Anxiety exists because of a future event. You're worried about something that hasn't happened, or your perception of your thoughts about something. So an example, I was talking to my friend, and he was talking about, like, some people, when they go listen to fireworks, they get anxiety from that noise, right? But it's not an actual thing. It's just the perception of the whole event. So when you start really, and I talk about this all the time, when you start really thinking about the root cause of where all of these emotions are stemming from, you realize 99% of the time they're not real. Nothing is real about whatever you're thinking. Like the anxiety of, like, look what you said. As soon as I just made the plunge and I'm standing by it, my anxiety dissipated. Because you're realizing, what are you really anxious about?
I know when I was younger, my parents used to always be like, "You are what you eat." They used to love saying that,
Yeah.
right? So, like, if you eat junk food, you know what I mean? You are what you eat. Eat healthy. But you are how you perceive yourself.
Exactly.
So,
and perception's not reality, right?
It is, exactly, right? So, but it's tricky because perception is not reality, but how you perceive yourself can dictate your reality. It's a very tricky circle. At least for me, it is, because when I start to think I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough to do something, it stops me in my tracks before I even try. Because I'm so scared of the failure that I feel like I know is about to happen. So, because I perceive myself to be unworthy, it then dictates my reality. Which is really not a good. Yeah, I mean, it is in either way. If you perceive yourself to be absolutely awesome, and you can't possibly fail, and your life is great, more than likely you're gonna accomplish some stuff. You have that confidence behind you. You're willing to take the risk. You're willing to go for it.
Well, because it's like this. Nothing. If you can just twist that thought pattern of nothing is a failure. Nothing. If you learn something from, like, even if it doesn't go as you planned, but you learned a valuable lesson, how is that a failure?
Yeah, and that is exactly where I am trying to get my line of thought on a regular basis. I can get there, but to stay within that realm is very challenging for me. And my girlfriend laughs at me because, like, most stuff that I do in my regular life, I've been doing for quite a while, and I'm quite good at it. So, like, for my job, for example, like, I'm very good at that. There's very few new skills other than the stuff I've been kind of learning in therapy and some of the communication skills I've been working on. But there's very few new skills that I've really had to learn. So a lot of that has to do from, like I said, a fear of failure, which is ridiculous. I'm embarrassed to try something new in front of people for the first time because I feel like I won't do it as effectively as I feel like I should. So that's crazy.
So that's a perfectionism thing. So that's just okay. Yeah. But okay, think about this. I just want you to think about this too. Is the fact that, okay, how would you know if everything that you did, right, was worked out? Then how would you know what's good and what's bad? How would you differentiate what's happy, what's sad? If everything, you put your mind to, and you never failed, or you never experienced sadness, or you never experienced grief, or you never, like, you know what I mean? Like, if everything was 100% all the time, how would you know how would you be experiencing life? I don't know if you would.
No, I don't think you'd experience anything.
You need that contrast. You absolutely need the contrast.
I agree. Because, like, those down moments really allow you to appreciate the up moments.
Well, all of the things build a new skill. So if you go through something, you build resiliency. If it's all learning, right?
Yep. it's all, yeah, it all builds character. It's all your own personal growth journey. Um, and this is hilarious because my girlfriend she did 5 or 6 years of therapy and like fairly cognitive behavioral therapy. She did like, I think she was like a weekly. She was very similar to me. I think she went once a week for like 2 years, and then she did like bi-weekly for the last like 3 or 4. Like she went quite a bit. Um, so it's very interesting to be in a relationship with somebody that has kind of learned a lot of the lessons that I'm working on. Um, because it's very nice for her to be able to give me kind of the little nudges in the right direction, but at the same time, like, she understands where I am mentally, so she's respectful of it. So she's like, we need to get you in situations where like you can experience failure.
Right.
And she's like, she's a snowboarding instructor in the winter. She does it as a part-time job. She loves it. She loves teaching kids how to snowboard. She grew up snowboarding, absolutely loves it, super passionate about it. And she's like, I'm gonna teach you how to snowboard this year. And I'm like, oh god. Right? And my brain's just like,
it's been nice knowing you, Sean. I've enjoyed this time together.
I know, right? Like, I'm like, how badly is this gonna hurt? And
not as bad as your job, so
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. She literally said, she's like, I can't wait to see, because I definitely have those, some subtle perfectionism kind of traits. She's like, I can't wait to see what happens when you suck.
Yeah.
And she's like, and you need to learn to embrace it. Because like when you fail, she's like, all you're doing, you're learning the lessons and you're able to pick yourself up again and you're able to move forward. And she's like, and then once you start getting into like progression and you start learning again, I think that's part of the issue with me with my job personally, was that like when I was younger, when I started this at like, I started ironworking at like 17, 18. And like I was a sponge, right? Like I found all the guys, the best guys that I could possibly work with. I would pick them out. I would go work for them as an apprentice. I would soak up everything they had to offer. I wanted to be great. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that my dad is very, very good at his job and quite well known. So like I kind of had this massive chip on my shoulder as like a prodigal, protege kind of coming up, like, ooh, like what could he do? And like I really felt that, so I really, really, really wanted to be a good student, and I really wanted to excel. And a lot of that was because I didn't want it to look bad on my dad, and this took me a long time to figure out. And then once I hit a certain stage, I realized that, and like it sounds incredibly cocky, but I just ended up being better than most, the vast majority, like because I took it very, very seriously. A lot of guys, it's just a job, just puts food on the table. Good, great, good for you. Like, do what you gotta do. But for me, I took it seriously. I wanted to be exceptional, and I got to a point where I was quite good, and then it started to deteriorate because I realized, and well, actually, I didn't realize this until like halfway through therapy, but I had hit a ceiling, and there was nowhere left to go.
That's right.
That's right. When you have 30, 35 years left in a career with nowhere left to go, no, I've been 310 feet in the air on a 4-inch wide beam walking around. Once you've done stuff like that, it's very difficult. Like there's no upward trajectory. I know all the tricks. I've been there. I've done it. And it just gets to the point where it's just a tedious, repetitious, it just eats away at your soul because there's no real nourishment there for you. You're not learning, you're not experiencing anything new. You're just basically putting up the same building in different spots.
And I wanna add that that is one of the causes of dementia, by the way. When you're in a job and you're on autopilot and you're not learning anything new and you're stagnated, and just because you're perfect at your job, and all those people who are like just counting down to retirement, I think that's horrible, but that's just my personal opinion. That anyone, I have 5 more years, I have 2 more years, I think that is horrible.
I started counting like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's a big number. When you're like, oh yeah, like I work with a lot of guys. Like I got 2 years left. I'm like, I got 33.
Well, I always say I can't retire. So how about that?
I always laugh. I never even said years. I just said winters because the
That's
winters are
why I
cold and
decided
brutal.
to get into something that I enjoy where it's not that I can't retire. Well, I can't retire, but I mean, it's it doesn't feel like a job to me anyways. So, I will do this until I can't do it.
I had this conversation with my dad actually like quite a while ago when I had first like really started getting restless. This was before, no, probably just after my ex and I broke up. So probably around um, New Year's 2020. Um, and I was talking to my dad about this, and I was like, I want out. I don't want to do it anymore. And my dad's like, well, just think about your pension because I do have a very good like workplace pension. He's like, you're on track for, I'll probably get like $7,000, $8,000 a month in my pension fund when I retire. Like, he's like, think about that. And I'm like, that's great, man.
So
But
kill
like,
yourself to get that seven.
yeah,
And what
yeah.
what happened? You're not promised. So I don't know if he has a
I'm,
trick that
I'm
I don't
locked.
know about.
I think ours is guaranteed up to 70%. So because they invest it and they try to make it grow, like they can, yeah. Anyway,
No, but I
anyway.
mean, like, you're not guaranteed to live till you're
Oh,
retired.
oh yeah, no, absolutely
So
not.
I'm like,
No,
um,
especially doing what I do. Like,
yeah. So like,
anything could happen.
I'm just thinking like that's all well and good if everything is planned how financially you're planning it. But I just think, okay, so if you're waiting to start like I know we're getting way off topic, but it's just because of what we're talking about of people are always delaying gratification, right? Like it's like, okay, so I will do that when I do this. I will do that when I do this. Like you're not living your life. You're living a term of your life. Like so, okay, see, I can't wait to retire because when I retire, I'm killing myself now so that I can get $6,000 to $8,000 a month when I retire. Think about what you just said and say it slowly, and then think about what you're saying. I'm gonna
Oh,
delay living right now.
yep,
I'm
yep.
gonna delay my happiness because I'll be happy when I retire. And of course, we all know, we've heard stories that either people don't even make it to retirement. My parents, well, my dad definitely didn't, and my mom couldn't retire because she got sick. So there's that plan. So my thought process obviously is completely different than maybe most.
Yeah, well, you lived through it. You bear witness to nothing being guaranteed in life. So
And they
you're
did all those things. So like they checked
yeah.
all those boxes.
Well,
My mom was a
yeah,
registered nurse, so she had,
yep.
pension. My dad worked for Transport Canada when he was here, and then the government in Trinidad. Like so, like check with retirement, assets, investments, all of the life insurance, all of these things for retirement. But
And
then life has other plans.
so you're nail on the head, like perfect. Because it's literally what I told my dad. Very similar. I said it a little bit more aggressively and with some swearing involved, probably. But I told him, I said, okay, listen, man. I'm like, I'm 28 years old. I've been doing this for 11 years. My body is, starting to deteriorate already. The I told him I'm like, what is the point of retiring at 55 or however old, 60, whatever, with an $8,000 a month pension when I'm broken? I can't enjoy those years because I'm in so much pain or whatever it may be. Right? Most guys that I see that retire, they're beat up. They've been through it. So I'm like, I told him, like, you got to look at what you value the quality of life. I'm like, so we have a guy we work with. He actually went to high school with myself and my younger brother. My younger brother got him a job working with us a couple years ago. His dad is 72, still working, works from home, and he's worked from home for like a decade. He runs his own insurance brokerage, and he's pulling in like 130 grand a year, and he works like 4 hours a day from home and making phenomenal money. And he's the example I use for my dad. I'm like, okay, so look at this guy. I'm like, he's not quote unquote retired like you would be. I'm like, sure, he still has, a couple hours a day he puts in at work. But I'm like, look at the income he's bringing in. Look at the quality of the life he's got. And I'm like, do you understand where I'm going with this? I'm like, he's able to do this job for as long as he wants, as long as he remains, present cognitively. He's set up. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're okay with that, then good on you. As long as it's something you enjoy. He seems to really like it. Every time I've talked to him, he goes on and on about it for free. He loves it. So, like, good for you, man. And this is a guy that he switched careers when he was 50.
There you go. Because there's
he
never an age. People have this misconception that, it's too late for me to do that. I can't start over. Why? These are all limitations, but I don't know, made up by who? Society? Somebody else? Like, you could do whatever you want to do at whatever age.
Yep.
It's your decision to do it. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I told him. I said, he's like, well, he's like, do you really want to be working when you're 70?
I don't care.
And I'm like,
healthy, I don't care if I love what I'm doing. I don't care.
That's what I said. I'm like, well, I don't want to be iron working when I'm 70 because that would be horrible. But like, if it was, a job that was relatively low stress, low impact, why not? And I mean, I'm a firm believer in a body in motion stays in motion. So like, I know a lot of guys that work in the trades and are very, very hands-on, very busy, very physical beings. And then, when they go into retirement and they take 30, 40 years of heavy activity and then they come to a screeching halt, like, their bodies don't like that.
No, because you're not moving. I mean?
You're not moving. So, like, I know of, like, quite a few people in the trades whose fathers were in the trades and their fathers passed away very shortly after retirement. And they were relatively healthy up until they retired. And it's literally, their body was just so used to being in such an active state, and then you just, okay, guess what? You're going to do nothing now. Like, they just deteriorate.
And I don't think people understand mentally, I don't know, people talk about this retirement, but I don't think you mentally are prepared for something that you've been conditioned for, pretty much 30-year career, or even 40, as you said. And then you don't have to go and do anything. I don't think people understand mentally that's not even a good place to be either.
No. Like, so this is the interesting part, and again, this is a conversation I've had with my dad, and I said, okay, $8,000 a month, I'm like, that's really great. I'm like, but that's a long ways away. I'm like, so what is the actual evaluation of that $8,000 a month going to be in 2050? Is it going to still be worth $8,000, or is it going to be closer to like $4,000 with the next 30 years of inflation and everything like that, right? So like, are living expenses going to continue to go up? Like how much money are we really talking about here?
And then
that 8,000 is pretty much locked in.
And then that is also not being able to do, as because of your commute, because of all like the actual physical condition of your job. That's not being able to build something on the side so that it doesn't matter. You're not completely dependent on that pension.
Exactly. So like you could, don't get me wrong, you could still probably rock a little side hustle if you wanted. I have a hard time, my commute's ridiculous, but a lot of guys, I'm sure you could, but a lot of guys are very dependent. Like, that's a really nice chunk of change to have coming in every month. So they're really dependent on that. But the problem is what is the cost of living realistically going to look like? So for me, it would be absolutely heartbreaking if I made it to retirement, this golden, magical, age where I'm like, I'm finally over. I can, now is my opportunity to live my best life. And then I realized that, like, oh no, I need to keep working because this $8,000 isn't actually going to cover my living expenses. I mean, I'm sure you would kind of figure that out before you actually retire, but still, that would be heartbreaking for me. That would be shattering. And I'm sure there's a lot of people there. Like, I see a lot of people that are arguably at retirement age that are, working part-time jobs. You see a lot of people at Tim Hortons, McDonald's, stuff like that, just trying to supplement their income. And, like, it's very interesting. Either that or there's the boredom aspect, too. I think because, like, you are living on a fixed income when you retire typically. And, anything, a lot of stuff in life costs money. So, like, you're gonna have a lot of days where, like, you're just not really doing anything. You might be productive around the house, you might do some reading, but, like, that's a hard place to be mentally.
Yeah.
Like, I personally need to stay moving. I know we're very similar to that. Like, I need to stay moving, I need to stay mentally doing stuff, or I deteriorate personally. So, like, I'm good for, like, 2 or 3 days of, like, super laziness. But anything exceeding that point, like, I start to kind of hate myself a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I start going into some negative spaces. So for me, the idea of being able to do this is why I absolutely love the mortgage broker idea that you came up with for me. I could do that very long term, and also I can do it for absolutely anywhere, which is starting to become more of an important part of a career choice to me than I really thought. But the ability to realistically be able to pack up your job and do it remotely
Because you are your
anywhere.
job. That's the best
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah, you just literally, I need me, computer, and internet access, and arguably I could do my job. Well, hopefully my potential future job.
Right.
So, to me, that's really interesting and important, I think. The fact that the job I'm leaving had me very, very, very locked in, arguably, to a specific geographical area, due to that's where the work is. I'm most guys I work with think I'm a lunatic for driving the amount I drive. I mean, I kind of think I'm a lunatic for doing it. But, like, it's very difficult. I couldn't really go any further than I am now from Toronto. But if I change into being a mortgage broker, I mean, I could go live in Thunder Bay if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I could have clients in Toronto.
That's right.
So, to me, that's really, like, a really interesting kind of thing. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, as usual, we went way over, but I think I want to, like, start ending these with, besides just going, okay, gotta go.
See ya.
See ya. I think the message here is, it's not more of, what if I fail? It's more like, but what if I succeed? And I think that's the message of, instead of just kind of like twinging your thought patterns of not focusing on the negative aspect of something, but trying to be, and I'm not saying like go around and just be positive. It's like really believing there's nothing bad that can happen. Like, really, what's the worst that can happen? And when you start thinking, like, what is the worst that can happen? Actually, nothing dire is going to happen. These are all made up scenarios that we like to do. We like to, like, keep thinking, oh my gosh, what if this, what if that? All of these negative thoughts that will never happen.
Yeah, I know for a fact I am a worst case thinker. And
that's from our parents, because they were always, don't put
yeah,
your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Always have a contingency plan.
I'm like a mental doomsday prepper for like anything in my life. So
you're in a bunker right now.
Exactly. And the amount, and this is another thing that was brought up in therapy that we talked about, but the amount of times that worst case scenario has actually come into fruition and actually been relevant in my life, I think was maybe like once. And honestly, I don't even think it was a worst case scenario. I think it was like a part of the worst case scenario. It wasn't even the full blown worst case scenario. Like, your brain is significantly more extreme than reality.
Well,
in a lot of these situations.
Think about, and people need to think about this in general, but you can think about because I know personally, but you think about all the things that have happened in your life that lead you to where you are now, and then you realize that they had to happen. Like, it had to happen exactly how it happened, because you wouldn't be where you are now. Like, I don't know, have you ever seen that movie Sliding Doors?
No, but I do really understand the point you're making.
Yeah, like it's basically about that concept. It was Gwyneth Paltrow, I remember she was starring in it, and it was basically her life, like her it showed her life if she chose a different door. And that's really what I believe life is. It's all about choices, right? So it's, we get to choose. We think that no, we don't have a choice. We Everybody is in control of our own lives. We all have a choice to make of which path we want to take, which experience we want to have. If we want to keep learning the lesson over and over and over, like we spoke about with when people say, "Oh, why am I getting in the same relationship?" Because you haven't identified, you haven't learned the lesson, right? So you're destined to repeat it until you learn the lesson. And the universe will keep testing to see if you're dumb, right? Like they'll keep sending
Oh yeah.
you, like, are you still dumb? Okay, I guess you are, because here we go again, right? And it's all when you really look and analyze it, like, it's all about your self-confidence and your self-esteem, and again, your self-love, right? Like, the more you start knowing yourself and being true to yourself, and as you said, being confident in yourself, the same way you're confident in your previous career. See what I did there? See what I did there? Like, you need to exude that confidence in every aspect of your life. I'm the best at this.
Yeah.
I can't possibly fail, because no matter, there's no such thing as failure. There's no
My
such thing as failure, really.
I'm and this is really interesting, and this is a very strange place for me, but like I'm excited to like kind of suck a little bit. It's weird because like I'm excited to be like, okay, I'm not great, but like I get to learn again and
But
I get to grow.
you haven't
Like
been
I'm
in, yeah,
pumped for that.
you haven't been in that place in a long time, so of
No,
course.
yeah, it's been a very long time. So yeah, I'm and it's interesting because when I was in a more negative state of mind about this subject, that was a fear point for me. That was red flags, failure. Like you're not going to be great. And now I'm just like, man, I get to figure out like what I'm made of. I get to figure out like, can I figure this out? Am I, how much can I learn? Like, can I find a couple good mentors that are willing to teach me and help me like learn this craft? You know what I mean? So for me, that's exciting, and I get to really see. And the other thing is it's a very self motivating. So I have to get up and I have to do everything. You know what I mean? Like I really need to do that. And that's a really good trait to be able to have. So I'm excited, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'll keep everybody updated.
Yep.
I have work ish, like quotation mark work ish, planned out for I think about the next month. I have to help my girlfriend with a couple big jobs she got. One of her employees had to leave, so she's a little shorthanded.
So
And
perfect timing.
yeah, it was literally like she's like so and so left. I'm like, it's all right, I'll quit.
There you go.
And then there is a ironwork job that is about 30 minutes north of me, and my older brother is the owner of he's the owner of the company.
Oh, good.
And so he needs help. It's only like a week, maybe 2 weeks long, but that will be my final.
Your exit.
Yeah, so to speak. I'm done. Tomorrow's my last day with my current company. Then I start helping with the landscaping, and then yeah, he needs a little bit of help, a little bit north of me. So I figured, yeah, why not? A week with him should be good. We always have a good time together. So, and then it will be school for a little while. So we'll see how that goes.
Good things. Good things.
Yeah, I'm excited. Okay, well, we'll talk next week, I guess.
Yes, sounds good.
Have a great week.
You too.
Talk to you later.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.